Hello, welcome to the Rankers. I'm Kyle Wright, and with me again is Stuart McPhee. How are you tonight, Stuart?
All right, you son of a bitch, I am great. How are
Good
things
to
with
s-
you?
Very well. Good to see a new year, and not much has changed there, Stuart.
No real. We're winning test series. We're winning test matches. Well, it's only day one of. I know this is usually your thing, but we're recording on the Wednesday, the 20th of January, 2025.
Happy birthday to my sister. She won't be listening, but happy birthday to her. She turns 40 today.
Happy birthday, Costa. Welcome to
Joins the club.
excellent. And yes, so 29th of Jan, and just Aussies just doing what we need to do in Sri Lanka. It's fantastic.
Yes, it's last time I looked, Kawaja was over 100. I think Smith was close. They've had a 200 run partnership. I think Steve Smith was dropped before he scored a run,
Hmm.
which would have been very interesting in my prediction of him getting four ducks in Sri Lanka and really holding off that 10,000th run. But these things are meant to be. Apparently, it's the same venue as Shane Warne got his 500th test wicket.
Oh,
So a
there you
bit of
go.
history there for Australia.
That's one.
Anyway, we're getting massively off topic as we are here for our first podcast of 2025. Can you believe that, Stuart? We are almost a quarter of the way through this century.
It's pretty crazy. Which means that there's been a lot of, reflecting on the best things of this century so far, because it is a chunky amount of time. But it still feels like I'm a 20th century boy living in a 21st century world.
I hear you. I hear you. And it was funny that we did a lot of 1994 reminiscing last year. I still feel like it's 1998, but my body says otherwise. Anyway, we are here to rank our top moments of 2024. And as we do on the rankers, those moments are generally spread over movies, TV shows, albums and sporting events, which is generally our wheelhouse of ranking things that really don't matter but interest us a whole lot. What's your reflections on 2024 there, Stuart?
Oh, look, it's I don't think it was a great music year. I don't think it was a great movie year. Which I don't think is a forerunner to what I've chosen, because I think there was still some solid things amongst it. I think there were some really good highs, but there wasn't enough of a base of a middle, if that makes sense. TV shows are of a similar nature as well. Yeah, it was
I
just a strange sort of year, and I think a lot of that is to do with just the environment, the times we're in.
I disagree with your TV show reference. As a father of three, don't get to go to a lot of movies, don't get to listen to a lot of new music, but the TV shows are the things I get to hang myself on, particularly after the kids have gone to bed. And I have to disagree with that. I had a much harder choice choosing my favorite TV series of this year than I did on either of the other ones, which was all quite easy for me because I tend to agree with you on the movie and the album side of things. Not that I'm a great listener to new music, unless it's from a band that I know well and love. I'm not really one of. I always swore I would, and I've said this many times in the podcast. I always swore I'd be one of those people that would keep up with the new music, but I got to a stage where it was just shit, and so I keep going back to the old stuff. So yes, there's a little prelude into my 2024 rankings.
And how did you see the year? Obviously, TV was fairly big. Um, yeah, I think you mentioned. Do we want to spoil how many times you actually went to the movies this year or last year, I should say?
I went once for an adult movie, and I think two, maybe three times for a children's movie. So that was the extent of my movie going experience last year. So yeah, and then I didn't get a chance to see a lot of on the streaming or Foxtel or whatever, a lot of the movies that were released in 2024. So I'm looking at a very small selection, and I've chosen my favorite from that. So we'll see how we go. But on the sporting front, you can't be disappointed with an Olympic year, particularly the first week for us Aussies as we get in the pool and all those sorts of things. It's really a great time, that Olympic period, even though the time zone wasn't all that flattering for us for the prime time events. But yeah, you can't knock back an Olympic year. They're always fun. My one of my moments actually comes from the Olympics. So yeah, the less said about my football team. It was good though that the Brisbane Heat won, although they were far from able to back that up again this season. So Yeah,
Yeah, I think we all need a Mitch Owen on our team.
yeah, we do, don't we? I tweeted the other night. I'm like, well, we found our answer to David Warner for the limited overs teams, and it'll be an absolute shock if he's at least not in the squad for whatever next one day international series there is.
100%.
Righto, shall we get started?
Let's do it.
Would you like to go first?
Sure. What are we going to go with first?
Let's start with movies.
Okay. So
So we're looking at some sort of Spanish Renaissance movie here with subtitles, are we, Stuart?
that has been my go for the last 4 or 5 years, choosing a foreign language film. I'm not quite sure if there's any sort of rhyme or reason to it. This one actually is English language. It's American, and I know you're shocked. And despite the fact that I certainly went to the movies a heck of a lot more than you did, this is actually a Netflix film.
So for those out there, that's the difference between having one child and three children.
That's right.
The amount of times you get to go to the movies.
That's right. Yeah. Although I do take my child to, R-rated films and say, look, we're watching The Substance and you're going to sit there and you're going to like it. Uh,
Righto.
no, no,
Each to their own. Each to their own.
that's right. How dare you lecture me on parenting, sir? No, I did not take my daughter to see The Substance. The Substance is certainly an
Oh,
honourable.
this is the Demi Moore one, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard a bit about this one.
It was very, very good. I must say, I very much enjoyed it. And if she ends up winning Best Actress, then well done to her. And
Yeah.
admittedly, there are still a couple of the 2024 films, particularly those that are sort of in the Oscar race that I'm yet to see, particularly Conclave and The Brutalist. I definitely want to see those. But the one I have chosen, because we're not here to talk about stuff I haven't seen and stuff that didn't make my top pick, is a film, like I said, was on Netflix, or was released via Netflix, called Rebel Ridge. Have you seen
I have
Rebel?
not seen Rebel Ridge, no.
So the best way to describe Rebel Ridge is it is like Rambo First Blood and
Okay. It's a good
mixed
start.
with Jack Reacher, but sort of a
Tom Cruise or TV series?
TV series, but it is sort of a thinking man's version of those. That's not to
You
say.
mean those other ones aren't Thinking Man's versions?
Well, to be fair, Jack Reacher can be quite like, particularly the book series. And don't get me wrong, there is some action and some really great close in short range action, and that makes more sense when you see the film because I don't want to spoil elements of it. But it is essentially about a guy who is in Louisiana who's trying to get his cousin out of jail by posting bail. He's raised a particular amount of money legitimately through business ventures, and he's riding his push bike into town to post the bail, and is essentially arrested for riding push bike whilst being black. That's pretty much what has occurred. And then what further to that happens is an interesting part of the law called civil asset forfeiture, where the cops possess the money that he's holding that was to post bail for his cousin because they believe it could be part of proceeds of crime without any sort of evidence to that. And so the rest of the film is this guy's get back his money from the police, get his cousin out of jail, and get the hell out of town. And pretty much everyone is against him. The clerk's office where he's trying to post bail, the cops, and yeah, tensions boil. It is it's a testament to what ended up being pure luck, which is the main guy, Aaron Pierre, who is English. Like a lot of the really great black actors at the moment, they seem to come from the UK. Idris Elba and
Yeah.
Daniel Kaluuya and all that sort of stuff. Funnily enough, it was supposed to be John Boyega from the Star Wars sequels who was supposed to play the main character, also English, I believe.
Yes, correct.
And this was announced back in 2019. And then, of course, COVID happened, writer's strikes happened, and a lot of stuff. Boyega pulled out of the film. They got this Aaron Pierre guy who I think the other main thing he's done at the moment is he's the voice of Mufasa in the new Lion King Mufasa film.
One of the children's movie I haven't seen from last year.
There you go. I saw it. It was, I think I made the joke that it's much better than The Irishman in terms of the de-aging technology, but that's for another story. But Aaron Pierre is so striking and is a real presence on screen. I think helped by the fact that he's probably a little bit taller than John Boyega, but I think not knowing who he was beforehand also helped the situation. It's filled out by people that you've seen before. Don Johnson, the great Miami Vice actor from the 80s, plays the corrupt sheriff, and there's a couple of other sort of that guys and that gals in it. James Cromwell, I think, plays the town judge. Yeah, Aaron Pierre's performance is great. There are some really great tense moments, and like I said, it gives off the shades of First Blood and Reach of a guy coming into a town and him not being invited there or want or his presence being allowed to stay, and him doing his best to do what he has to do to get out of town and do it with as minimal fuss as possible. Yeah, Rebel Ridge was one like I said, I went in sort of blind and really enjoyed it. And it's not going to win awards. In fact, it's not up for any Academy Award, but it was the one that stuck with me.
There you go, people. Get off that wonderful recommendation from Stuart. Make sure you get out and check Rebel Ridge on Netflix.
On your Netflix service. Yep.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to actually go for my 2024 movie to one of the one adult movie I did see in the cinema last year. And that was the prequel to A Quiet Place. And it was A Quiet Place Day One. Have you seen that one, Stuart?
I have not. No, I haven't seen any of the Quiet Place series, but I'm aware of.
For those unaware of A Quiet Place, basically, not really future, but modern times where aliens have come to Earth and they've attacked Earth and they have no sight or anything like that. Basically, they run off sound. So they attack off hearing things. So stepping through the forest or whatever, they'll hear any minute sound and attack pretty quickly and ferociously. So this is the third movie in the franchise. You got A Quiet Place and then A Quiet Place Part 2, which is obviously a sequel to A Quiet Place. And this one is A Quiet Place Day 1, which is a prequel. It doesn't have any of the actors from the original film or the sequel. So it's taking you essentially back to day one of when the aliens attacked, and you get a day or two before that as well, before the aliens attack. Although in A Quiet Place Part 2, you get to see where the main characters were on day one. This is a more in-depth, taking you into a different story of someone getting through obvious shock and of the aliens attacking on day one. Again, I love the casting in this one. There's no draw card actors, as you would say, no A-list actors. I'm going to attempt to pronounce his name. Apologies to anyone if I don't. The most recognizable actor would be Digimon Honsu. I think he was in Blood Diamond, perhaps, and some other movies as well. You know him. The other one that might be recognizable is Joseph Quinn, who was in the most recent season, which was a couple of years ago, of Stranger Things. You might have seen the memes of him playing Metallica or something like that on top of a car. And the main actress in this one is Lupita Nyong'o. I think I've said that one correctly. Yeah, and starts with her in a sort of like hospice care. So she's dying of cancer or something like that. And it's basically that people from that go out to a day trip to a theater. They're inside the theater when this attack happens, and it goes from there. She gets misplaced. We get a bit of her backstory, and then she teams up with the Joseph Quinn character, Eric, to escape onto a ferry because something with water with these aliens as well that make it hard for them to attack over water, so to get to a ferry. Not wanting to give too much away, but yeah, given that it was saying, I've probably got a more fondness to this movie because number one, the kids were over at a sleepover. Number two, we've gone to gold class. Number three, it's an adult movie at the cinema, which probably gave it a little bit more of a feel than other movies that I've seen. And also, I'm old school. I love going to the cinemas. As good as the big screen TVs and the streaming services and all that is, It's the good old fashioned feeling of, going to the cinema, particularly in a gold class, getting your food delivered to you and getting the big sundae at the end, which is all a part of the experience. But still thoroughly recommend this movie. Again, it's not going to win any Oscars unless it has. And it's, not one of those that's going to make the top 10 lists of anyone's all-time movies, but definitely an enjoyable movie, particularly if you're a fan of the A Quiet Place series. So
Cool.
there's my 2024 recommendation.
Very good. Just a question on the timing. So, how much earlier do the events in this film take place before the first film, if that makes sense?
Good question. It's not quite. It's been a while since I've seen the first one, but I think the events in that movie are a year after the first day attack or day one attack,
Right.
and then I think the second movie's a couple of months after the first movie, and then this one goes right back to just before the initial attack.
Right. Okay. All good. Yeah, because I don't know why I sort of thought that Quiet Place Day One would be. I presumed it was only sort of a day or two before the events of the first films.
No,
Yeah.
it's a fair bit in from the attack. So
Yeah.
this
Okay.
this is a
So
this is a
there's nothing
it's a
ongoing.
yeah, it's a family on the run trying to survive, and yeah, once you see it, you'll understand.
Cool, cool. In a similar vein, I am looking forward to the 28 Days series,
Mm,
that the 28 years
great.
later coming this year. That
Yes,
looks good. That's similar sort of fare, so to speak. So yeah, very
yes,
good.
very good.
What should
Uh,
we do next?
shall we go on the same theme and go to TV shows?
Sure.
Sure.
So my favorite last year was the TV series Ripley.
Ripley.
Yeah, which I think this is going to
Is
sound
that
like I'm.
something to do with aliens?
No, it's not. Although I think there is an alien-based TV series coming out this year,
There is.
but no, this is to do with the Patricia Highsmith novel, which was also The Talented Mr. Ripley and
Oh,
the
yes. Okay.
movie from the 90s. This is also on your Netflix service, which makes it sound like I'm repping for Netflix, and I'm certainly not. Steve Zalian, I think, wrote and directed this adaptation. He makes a couple of bold decisions. One of it is to do most of it sort of on set, which is means that there's some absolutely stunning cinematography of Italy. I think it's set around the late 50s, early 60s from memory. He's also his decision to do it all in black and white, which I think just brings out the background and the scenery even more. And his decision for, who is it, Andrew Scott to be the lead, essentially doing the Matt Damon character. And if you've seen The Talented Mr. Ripley before, you sort of know where this is going. But this is sort of spread out over about 8 episodes. There are some, I think it's episode 3 in particular. That's sort of the point where you go, I'm in or I'm completely out on this. There are long periods where there is no one speaking. It's all tension, and you're also uh, watching Ripley go about what he's doing, and thinking, A, you're an idiot. Why are you going down this rabbit hole? But B, you're just so invested in how he does it and how he gets out of it, and how he always seems to be a half a step ahead of the local police or whoever is being sent across from New York to find out what's actually happening. Yeah, it's very very well done, well constructed. There's the possibility of doing a second season because there are other Ripley novels that can be adapted. If they don't, that's fine. I think it sits on its own. Yeah, it was very, very enjoyable and probably the best acting by a cat that I've ever seen in anything without giving too much away of that. But yeah, Ripley was my favourite TV show of last year.
Excellent. Um, I came very close to copying your recommendation either from last year or the year before, and that was Slow Horses. So the wife and I got stuck into that towards the end of the year and binged I think there's 4 seasons,
There's
possibly 5,
yeah.
with the new season coming out soon. Absolutely love that show. So it was very close to getting my nomination, but in the end, I had to go with The Penguin. You know
Okay.
much about that one?
I certainly know it's all the memes of Soprano-like characters watching it going, they're ripping us off. What's going on?
Probably no surprise that a massive fan of The Sopranos loved The Penguin from last year. A lot of great TV series, but for me, this one, of the ones that I watched, so I didn't watch all the TV series, everyone out there, but this is for mine the best and my favorite. I've been a long time believer that the DC comic universe that they're trying to create shouldn't be the PGM version that the Marvel have gone with. It should definitely be the R-rated, the more heavier side, given that Gotham is, a really seedy place. And I think they've kind of got that with the Batman, the one with, what's his name from Twilight, anyway, that movie. And then the Penguin is directly from that movie, so it's sort of it's in the same universe. For those that don't know, Colin Farrell is the Penguin. You do not recognize Colin Farrell in this at all. And if you didn't know who Colin Farrell was, you wouldn't know that, that's him being the Penguin. You'd think it's a completely different actor. And so what Penguin does is it shows his rise from pretty much a chauffeur to being, a crime lord as such. And just the way Colin Farrell is excellent in this role, just the way that he's able to kind of weasel his way through situations to his advantage and to his benefit. And every time you think he's down, every time you think he's out, every time you think he's trustworthy, just turns on a dime and just plays it to his advantage and gets himself out of some pretty sticky situations with his cunning and his guile. We get a bit of a look into his.
Sorry, I was going to say not dissimilar to Tom Ripley in Ripley.
There you go. A nice segue to your pick there, Stuart. Well done. We even get to see like his backstory in one of the episodes, his relationship with his mother in particular, and his brothers, and then that's all linked in with his current situation and all that sort of stuff. So really excellent series. Even if you haven't seen the Batman, you don't really need to see that to see this. There are some references that you'll get from it. It had been years since I'd seen the movie, and so I was able to put together those links without really needing to. So yeah, thoroughly recommend, particularly if you're a fan of Colin Farrell, who's kind of made a bit of a sort of renaissance of his career after having a bit of a stalling period there for the last say 5 to 10 years even. And definitely his best TV efforts. Sugar was okay, but definitely his best since True Detective.
But now we probably need another 40, 50 minutes to talk about.
I'm only a couple of episodes through that one, so
you are
quite finished that one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Speak about shows that turn on a dime. Watch it, and then we can discuss whether they made the right choice of what that show was actually about.
And I think if we were to do our most versatile actors, you'd have to have a serious consideration for Colin Farrell now.
Well, I think maybe you or I chose him.
Did we? Can't remember.
I think maybe we did. I could be wrong.
There we go. Good chance for people to go back and have a listen and let us know.
There you have it. Excellent work. And that's on your binge service.
Yeah, that's on through. I think it's a HBO possibly. So definitely through. Warner Brothers because it's DC, but through Foxtel if you've got that, or Binge, which is the streaming equivalent of Foxtel.
Very good. Very good. Shall we move on to music?
Why don't we?
So my favorite album this year, I think when I worked out my top 5 or 6 or so, they were pretty even. If I had a gun to my head, or if Kyle said we had to still choose one, I went with a guy from North Carolina called MJ Lenderman, who has sort of blown up a little bit last year with his third or fourth, I can't remember, third or fourth, I think it's his fourth solo album, Manning Fireworks. So MJ Lenderman he's a solo artist, but he is also a guitarist in the band Wednesday. The best way to describe Lenderman is if Evan Dando from the Lemonheads was still around, but he had everything written by Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, I reckon. That's probably the best.
You piqued my interest.
Yeah, well, you say that, but there's certainly the slacker rock elements of the '90s that we both enjoyed, but it certainly also has an alt country tinge to it as well.
You lost me.
Carolina, so I'm sorry about that. But he's a heck of a shredder. He's got some really great guitar solos in his songs. They are the songs are really just a couple of rhyming couplets, and there's not much of a storyline to any of it. It's sort of a mix of witty bon mots, and you go, oh, this is all very cute, but where's this going? Oh, don't worry, I've got a rad guitar solo I'm just going to drop. I think the best line out of any of his songs for this album is Kahlua Shooter DUI Scooter, which
Inspiring.
just says it all. He's coming out to tour here in a few months, so I am going to see him, which will be great.
Lovely.
Look, there's just some great songs. I don't know what the shelf life is for this guy. He may keep on doing these great 35-minute albums for the rest of his life. He may do something massive and epic, or he may just fizzle out as well. But in terms of the album that I listened to the most last year, it was certainly MJ Lenderman's Manning Fireworks. So that's my
Fantastic.
recommendation.
Might have to give it a check out. All right, as you go wide and varied all around the world, I'm going to go good old classic band, one that I know you love, but I'm actually going with Pearl Jam's Dark Matter
Okay.
for this year. Not that I've listened to a lot of 2024 albums, but as I went to see them this year. Obviously, needed to do a bit of homework, and Pearl Jam are known for not having a consistent set list, so you can't really predict what's going to happen. So needed to know the new songs heading into the gig, and listening to it a fair bit. Definitely better than Gigaton or whatever the
You good,
name
Tom?
of that album is. They did play one of those songs at their gig, and it was one of the better ones off that album. So I was thankful for that. But I really think this is a return to form for Pearl Jam. A bit more of that rock leaning to it rather than that experimental talking head stuff they were trying to do on the last album. For whatever reason, they decided to do that. You've probably seen pictures of Eddie Vedder with a fedora. So
Yes.
it's very much that style of album. Again, not transcending or trying to be experimental or trying to stretch any boundaries here. They just went back to their roots essentially. And seeing some of these songs that they played live, in particular Dark Matter and Wreckage, two of my favorites off the album. It was really great to see them, and a band in their prime. Expensive to see, but worth every cent. Even though when we went to see them on the Gold Coast, the storm almost stopped us from seeing them, as you would expect in southeast Queensland. But things were rearranged at the last minute. Unfortunately, we got on to see them. So for me, my 2024 recommendation is Dark Matter by Pearl Jam.
And it does remind me, I think we said at some point down the track we were going to focus on Pearl Jam songs from the 21st century. So
Correct.
you can see what ends up in there. So very good. Two good recommendations, Pearl Jam Dark Matter and MJ Lenderman Manning Fireworks. Just speaking about music, I happen to be back on our sort of home turf, being the Gold Coast. You went to university there. I say that as if, I'm reading off a fact sheet. We both went to the
My
same.
Wikipedia page.
Yeah, correct. We have a Wikipedia page.
No, we did not.
And I was borrowing my mum's car, and he had it on CFM. I immediately turned off that and started searching for other things.
As
And
you
I
do.
came across Rebel FM. Have you
Yes.
99.4 on your dial?
Yeah.
And I thought I was a little bit cautious because with most radio stations, it's, they do the whole, you never know what we're going to play next. And then you go, well, you're going to play Toto. That's coming. And you mentioning Pearl Jam and watching them on the Gold Coast reminded me of it, because I flicked on and there's this, lesser known Tom Petty song that played. I thought, oh, yeah, this is pretty good. And then it went straight into I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones, and then something else. I'm going, hang on a second. I think I found a rock station that isn't going to play the same stuff all over again. So it gives me hope, and I wasn't expecting to find that on the Gold Coast, but here we are.
Well, given the beauty of streaming and all that these days, you'd probably listen to Rebel down in Melbourne now
I
on
probably,
the internet.
yeah, 99.4 on your dial if you're living in the southeast Queensland region. Speaking about Queensland,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about sport and our favourite moments. My favourite sporting moment is not from the Olympics, and it feels weird that we've had because of it was only the 3 year gap between Tokyo and Paris. It feels like we're being very much sport from an Olympics point of view. But this guy will feature at future Olympics, and that is any time that I saw footage of Gout running
Oh yeah.
in any of the state Queensland or national titles or whatever other track meet he was at, I'm all in. I've got season tickets for this guy. He is phenomenal. So for anyone that doesn't know who Gout is and thinking I'm talking about an obscure foot condition, he's only 17 years of age, born in the Switch. I think goes to Ipswich Grammar. Family is from South Sudan, hence the name. He is an Australian sprinter. He similar to guys like Michael Johnson and Bolt. He does the 100 and 200. He will be one of our greatest athletes. We will see him when's Brisbane? Is it 2032?
32, yeah.
So
So what's that now? 7 years away.
7 years away. So at that stage, still only going to be 24. So he's going to be in his absolute prime then. I think. So what do we got next? LA.
LA in 28, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd be shocked if he's not competing for Australia in LA, and he'll go pretty close there, and then he'll be cherry ripe by the time Brisbane comes around. It's hard because I'm not a sprint expert. I mean, look at me. But it's
Come on, don't sell yourself short.
probably he is going to be an even better 200-meter sprinter. So his record, I've got his records up here on the only place that tells us facts, which is Wikipedia. His 100 meters is 10.17,
Just a little bit slower than mine.
just a smidge. His 200 meters is 20.04. So that's the Australian record and national record for maybe it's just the Australian and national records, and then the under 20 record. Either way, that is phenomenal. He also does the 400 meters and 47.57 seconds for that. But yeah, you see any of the footage of him online and him coming around the turn on the 200, yeah, there is no stopping him. He's going to be phenomenal. For the small amount of footage that has aired on things like YouTube and Instagram over the last 10 months or so, just whetting everyone's appetite, that's my sporting moment of the year. Anything that
Lovely.
Gout has done.
So you've got a sort of infatuation.
I certainly wouldn't call it an infatuation. I mean, you cannot be helped but charmed by what you're seeing because it comes around once every 3-4 generations.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh well, for Australia sprinting,
Or an Australian sprinting.
never.
Yeah, exactly. So, best of luck to the man.
Very good. Well, I should say in male sprinting, because we do have a very good record with female sprinting with Kathy Freeman et al. All right. As mentioned earlier, my moment is not the Brisbane Heat winning the title. It would have been, but there was an Olympic year. And so we actually had a podcast planned around, we were going to choose sort of like a draft style. And we were going to get our 5 favorite gold medals. Once one was taken, we couldn't then choose it. So I'm kind of thinking back to there, and this was going to be my choice for number 1 if it had made it that far onto the podium. And it's on the BMX track, which I absolutely love watching when the Olympics comes around, in the women's racing. And it was, I hope I'm getting this name right, Saya Sakakibara. I think I've said that one correctly, or probably have not at all. So I don't know if you know her backstory at all.
The one her brother was injured? Is that
Her
it?
brother was injured, a spinal injury, and she, in fact, may have injured herself as well leading into the Tokyo Olympics, and came to the final and had a bad start. And I think she finished last or something like that when she was in one of her races anyway, and she was the favourite to take out the gold medal. So a lot around this gold medal that she won with the story of her brother, her own individual story, her heartbreak from the previous Olympics, if my memory is correct. Just looking here, so she crashed during the semi-finals in the 2020 games, and she was the favourite to win the gold medal. So to come from that adversity, to come back and to win the gold medal, just for me would have been my number one if it had still been on the board to choose from. Come our drafting ranking episode if we had have done that. So definitely my number one sporting achievement for 2024.
Very good. It was shame we planned us in the line to do that. I think we'll have to keep a similar one sort of up our sleeve going forward. But yeah, I'm remembering sort of in the pre-planning of that, I probably had her in the top 3 or 4. So yeah, it would have been one that if I'd gotten the first pick, it may have been in the mix. But yeah, if you got first pick, then yeah, I would have had 2 or 3 others to lean on. But no, very good. Good cross section there, I think.
All right, so that closes off our review of 2024 as far as movies, TV shows, albums, and sporting events are concerned. Of course, there's plenty of other moments out there, and we can't be everywhere as much as we'd love to be. So if you've got a different idea or you absolutely hate our rankings, please make sure that you let us know on our various social media feeds or face-to-face if you happen to see us from time to time.
Or free to update our Wikipedia page.
Absolutely, wouldn't that be great? Before we close off on this discussion, 2025 is already 1 month down almost. Can you believe that? What are you looking forward to this year in the movie, music, and sporting foray for 2025? What might be making your list this time next year, do you think?
It's always hard to predict with sport, just for my team to be half decent. And then for my basketball team, the Utah Jazz, who are tanking beautifully at the moment.
Oh, gotta love a good tank.
In order to try and obtain Cooper Flag, who is very, very white, so it would make sense for Utah to. It's almost like they should just give them the number one pick. It just makes sense. But I think movie-wise, I mentioned 28 Years Later. Really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's mine too.
TV-wise, we're episode 2 into Severance, which is a show I was very much looking forward to seeing again. It's been 3 and a bit years since season 1. So far, the first 2 episodes have been great. And things like Slow Horses will come back, and The Bear, which will be great. And music-wise, it's always very difficult to know. I sort of see that it's almost like every second year is the really great year in terms of the sort of artists that I usually listen to. But MJ Lenderman is a good example of, at the start of last year, I'd heard of him, but nothing really resonated with me until the album came out and I started hearing some of the songs going, actually, this is pretty good. And so, there could be an act that I know is due a new album, and it'll be very comforting to know that there's more music of theirs out in the world. But they're, probably my favourite album is going to be something that I have no idea is coming.
Very good.
Yeah.
Apart from the ones that you've mentioned, I'm looking forward to the next season of The White Lotus. I've really enjoyed those TV series. As far as movies goes, again, I'm really looking forward to that. Is it 28 Years Later?
Yes.
And of course, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which I think is due out this year as well.
Which means that we can then do our Mission Impossible rankings, which
how good's that going to be?
Because we held off.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, you go.
No, I was going to say, because we held off when we did the Tom Cruise rankings, we excluded them specifically, I think.
Correct. Yes, and I'm looking forward to rewatching those all again for that podcast. Might even bring my son on board for those, because I did watch the first one a couple of months ago, and then tried to get through the second one and found something else to do.
It's a tough gig, the second one.
It is, isn't it? I forgot how terrible it was. Although seeing Australian money in it was pretty cool. I'm just going through the 2025 album list here, and nothing springs out to me. Unless Oasis release a new album, it's going to be a struggle for me in 2025, I think.
Well, we're both looking forward to seeing Oasis this year.
For me, it's not the year of the snake; it's the year of Oasis. So yeah, I mean, I should put a day countdown so I know how many days are left before I get to see them, or potentially get to see them, given Liam and Noel's history. All right, so shall we finish off there, Stuart?
Sounds great.
All right. So we're doing something a little bit different for our next episode. Given it's Triple J Hottest 100 fever at the moment, we will actually be releasing our 100 to 11 on our socials, and we're choosing the song at each pick. So it's not our personal 100 to 11 in any order. We've gone through and had a look at what was pick 100 in history, what was pick 99, 98, all the way down to number one. And we've come up with our own personal lists, and we're going to release those a day apart on social media. So you can have a look at those as we go through and maybe predict what our top 10 will be. I'll put a link in on the first day to where you can look up. There's a great search engine on Triple J. You can look at by year, by pick, by artist, by country. There's a whole bunch of things you can search for. It's really a great way to waste a day going through and looking at the history of the Triple J Hottest 100. After we've released 10 a day for, I don't know, what's that, 9 days or something, we'll then release our podcast where we'll discuss our top 10 and talk a little bit through some of our picks and the experience that we had in finding those picks. Are you looking forward to that one, Stuart?
I am. I'm looking forward to wearing the same clothes as what we're wearing right now to do that episode. Or shall we not? Shall we change t-shirts to?
No, I can't be bothered. So we're essentially doing that straight after this podcast. So that's a little spoiler there for you. So if there's nothing else there, Stuart, we'll have to say sayonara to this one and move on to the next one.
Sounds great. Thanks, mate.
Just remember, you got to keep them separated.
Sounds good. See you, mate.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Bye.